Welcome to Martini Time. And I think there's some snow coming tomorrow here in Virginia, in Blackstone, the center of the world. But then you too are in the center of the world. We're all in the center of our world. And that is the subjective view, and which is what I want to talk about tonight. But first, my metaphor cat got its first mouse. My metaphor cat is, well, let me take a drink of this. My metaphor is my uncle's fake cat. So I have it in a chair in my foyer with a little bowl of food next to it. And let me put it down. And so somebody came over today and tried to pet it. And it's a metaphor cat because it's both alive and dead. It's Schrodinger's cat. You know, if you look at it, you think it's alive. And then if you punch it, it's dead. You see. So it's alive dead. Anyway, there was a lot of excitement and energy on the news today. And there was a Senate hearing about questioning the Homeland Security. And during that Senate hearing, a news report was read about, I think in Indiana, some immigrant here who came here when he was 10, been here for 30 years, but didn't fit into the DACA category, was arrested and taken to the airport while his family was crying and everything. Hadn't done nothing wrong, you see. And so this bam is just hitting like right in the heart, because when you watch that, you cry. You have empathy for these people. When children cry, you have empathy, you know. And so I got to think about this. This is a great dramatization of what's going on in our society, Western American society, that is making a transition from the print age, which is the age I grew up in, to the digital internet age, which are two different paradigms. And it's affecting the news. And I also had another question. We'll try to tie some dots here. But I really had a sense of why the right, the extreme right, or conservatives or whatever, keep yelling about the liberal media, the bleeding heart liberal media. And Trump particularly, the liberal media. I mean, this is not just Trump. This has been the rallying cry of the Fox News, the liberal media. And I never really understood what the liberal media was, since all the media, it's all the same. You get CBS and NBC and ABC and you know, all this media. You know, what's the liberal media when they're all reporting the same news? Well, I just got a sense of it today, because what I want to share and try and get a zoom out. You know, I like to zoom out and see things with a wider view instead of just focusing on the individual incident. What's the pattern here? You see, what's the pattern? What's the wider view? What's going on that we don't see because we're focused on every incident, every situation as a standalone situation. Well, so I've been writing on this to use this as an example. So I'm writing on this guy getting extracted, yanked up by his roots and tossed into a country he hasn't been in for 30 years with no hope of getting back unless he swims the Rio Grande again or something and lives as a fugitive. But this is emotional news. Now, the print news that we have grown up in since the Gutenberg Bible, or Gutenberg printing press, which changed the Middle Ages, by the way, printing changed the Catholic Church, the Middle Ages, and gave everybody a Bible. Anyway, I don't want to go back there. That's too complicated. So just to make it very simple, is that when you got news in a newspaper, first of all, it was a day old, and second, it was cool. It was rational. You could read that, and contemplate on it and talk about it. The headlines might be a little emotional, but the story was you read it. And when you read something, you're the reader and the story is there, you see. But when you watch that same story on TV, it's an emotional delivery system. Oh, I hurt for these people. You feel the news, you see. That's subjective. Objective news is you don't feel it, it's just a bunch of things. And I connected dots here, as you do when you zoom out. In order to zoom out, you have to connect dots. And the Vietnam War was an objective war that the government said we were winning because of the body count. We were winning because we were killing so many gooks, you see. They weren't people, they were just gooks. So you kill a lot of gooks, you win. Well, we didn't win because it didn't take in the subjective view. It had no idea of the humanness of the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese, of their conviction and their determination. It didn't take that into account. They were just numbers. So you kill enough of them, you win. That's logical. That's math, you see. And so we're doing the same thing with the immigration. Well, there's so many of them here, so you just get rid of them. That's a body count, so we're going to win and clean up the country by getting rid of all of these digits, these numbers on a list. But when the media reports it, it's not a number on the list. It's a human being with a family, and you feel the pain of the law, you see. The law is objective. Well, these are all criminals. Kick them out. And then we make the mistake then of looking at it individually and say, well, this guy could have registered as a citizen. Why didn't he get citizenship? It's his fault. You see. So no problem, it's his fault. He didn't do it right or whatever. Oh, his parents were at fault. They shouldn't have brought him here. That's kind of like the cold view, you see. Just facts, just digits. Get them out. Lock them up, lock them up. Throw the key away, lock them up. You see, that's an objective view. These are not human beings. This was the view of Hitler. The Jews are not humans, kill them. Immigrants aren't people, kill them. Well, maybe kick them out, you see, or don't let them in, you see. So we're get this conflict between the subjective and the objective, and the news reports the stories. And the news, our news today, TV news, internet news, is emotional news because it goes right to the story. It doesn't just report objective facts. So, the news is too emotional. If you want objective facts, well, then it should be like BBC News or something, where you just have somebody sitting there, no graphics, and they just read statistics. They just read the facts, things happened, you see. But our news is emotional news. And you could see this, the reporters, as soon as the tornado just tore their house down, they go right there. How do you feel? How do you feel? You say, I want to know how you feel. I want to feel, you see. So the subjective view is, I want to feel the news. But it feels true if I feel it. If I don't feel anything, So there's a rise of the subjective. And this is happening it's even happening in the YouTubes, animal YouTubes. All the animal YouTubes that go 1-2 million virals are all about animals having feelings. You see a tiger with a goat licking the goat as its best buddy. What is that? You see, tigers eat goats. You got a tiger who feels empathy for the goat. What's that, you see? This blows apart the scientific view, the mechanistic view of nature. Animals don't have feelings. Therefore, you can coop them up in a factory and make chickens live in a box, you see. They don't have feelings, you see. But they do have feelings, and this is coming through with our YouTubes. Every time, oh, look, the bear and the elephant and the monkey were best, all of this stuff going on breaks apart the conditioned objective view of animals. They're like us. They have feelings and emotions, just like we do. You see, they're not mechanical objects, you see, unfeeling organisms, just things, you see. The objective view sees everything as a thing. There's no feeling or consciousness there. There's no conscious. Science is an objective view, and it has no idea what consciousness is. It says, well, the brain creates it. But do you feel like you are created by matter, that you're a thing? Does that satisfy your longing for identity? Oh, I'm just a thing. I'll look up in the dictionary and see what I am. Does that satisfy us? You see, no. We want the awakening of the subjective view. I want to feel alive. I want to feel life, you see. I want to feel. I don't want to be a dead thing, an empty thing, you see. But see, the objective view, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have it, because we have to have it, because it creates the machines that have made this iPod or this internet or this computer, you see. That's made by the objective view. But we have to understand that we're going through a transition or a passage or a reformation that is not less great than the Protestant Reformation and the capitalist and the scientific Reformation that changed the Middle Ages. It's that big. And I'm not just saying this myself. This is backed up by any study or any philosopher or thinker you want to find that looks at this situation. We're going in through a passage, and the shift, and we can see it if we know how to see it or look at it, is from the pure objective view, which was dominant up to the 50s. When the 60s came, it was an awakening of the subjective view, which we see now as the hippies, you see. But then we make hippies objects. Well, they were just hippies. Lock them up, you see. But the hippies, and this was the awakening of I am a human. I am a person. And this goes on today with the awakening of blacks in the 60s, the awakening of women, the women's movement. That's going on right now. When the woman says, I am not a sexual object. He treated me like a sexual object, and I resist. I'm not a sexual object unless I choose to be. You see. And LBGT, that's an awakening of a subjective I. I am a human being. I am a human being. And I will not become an object anymore, you see. And that's happening all over. But it has complications. And I think we can see it being played out on the larger screen here with the immigration, because Trump is seeing the immigrants as objects. They're not humans, they're immigrants, they're objects, they're illegal, they're aliens. They're not immigrants, they're aliens, they're illegal aliens. Aliens are not human, you see. There's an emotional pact to that. Well, if it's an alien, you can do anything you want to them. They're not human. They're not like me. But now on the news we see, he's just like me. I got a family, he's got a family. How would I feel if somebody came and snatched me out of my town and sent me to Siberia? Well, that's what Russia does, So this whole, and I was reminded today of Jonathan Edwards. He was, when I studied English, you have to read or to study the Puritan England and the literature of the Puritan England, and it was all sermons. And Jonathan Edwards was a famous sermon, a preacher of the Puritan age. And one of his best sermons was, God is holding you above the pit of hell on a thread. And it's only his whim that keeps you from falling into the eternal pit of hell and eternal damnation. It's just God's whim that's keeping you from falling into hell, you see. And so suddenly I can sense that the immigrants now, the DACA, are feeling like that is just the whim of Trump that keeps me from falling into eternal damnation, which would be being deported to a country that is not your home. That's eternal damnation. You're being exiled to a home that is no longer or is not your home, you see. And so that's kind of like, the Congress now is struggling to find balance between the subjective, which is being reported on the news, And the objective, which is, well, you have to fix the immigration laws, and it is against the law to come to the country and stay here without being legal, you see. So there's the two views are valid views. But the problem is they're the way they're rising up like two hands, objective, subjective view. The way they're coming up is they're coming up like this. Instead of like this, it's coming up like this, you see, instead of this. This is balance, subjective and objective, feeling, object, science, faith, science. The coming together of the I and the it, you see. I am a human. See, I'm not a human. I don't say, oh, well, who are you? I'm a human. Well, that's like saying, well, who are you? Well, I'm a husband. Well, yeah, that's a role I play, but that's not who I am, you see. So we have these roles, but that's not who we are. We know that's not it, you see. So these objective are necessary to function in society, but they have nothing to do with my identity and my soul, myself, my being, which is where I live, you see. And so these two have to come into balance, and we're struggling because when you have laws that create immigrants as objects, you could come out, lock them up. I have some conservative, radical conservative or far-right friends who publish their memes on so I watch these memes and I make comments on them. Usually I just comment with an exaggeration, and I just take the logic to insanity. And I'll say something like one of them was, should Obama be prevented from having a library? Yeah. And I say, yes. Burn all the president's libraries. Burn them up. Take them down. Take every one of them down. We shouldn't have president libraries. And to hell with history. Well, that's kind of the illogical insanity that this thing goes to, you see. So I enjoy that. But anyway, thanks for dropping in. And keep your hands together. Try to find the balance between the subjective and the objective, you see. And notice when they're going like this, when your role is in conflict with the way you feel, when your feelings is in conflict the way you perceive the world, you see, which is objective, and then you have your subjective, you see. So we're going through an awakening. The awakening of the subjective I. It's kind of like grammar. You got your first person, you got your second person, you got your third person. Okay? We all learned that in school. Well, the first person is I am. The second person is you. Now, you can be either a thou that I love, have empathy for, or you can be an it. And the third person is everything is an it. He, she, or it, you see. That's objective third person. It. That's the objective view. Everything's an it. And that's the view of science. Even psychology. And that's it's been a success, but it's also becoming its downfall while people will say, I don't believe in science. Because it makes everything an it.